I don't often talk about TV shows, which is mainly because I don't watch them often, and it's been more than a year since I've talked about just one media product for a whole video. But man, I finished Attack on Titan last month, and I really want to talk about it because wow. First thing I want to say is I haven't been like a die-hard Attack on Titan fan for years. I actually only just started watching it in like October, I think, and then I finished it in November. So I'm basically a new fan, but I'm already in love with the show because it's just so great. And I'm actually really sad that it's ended because I just loved the experience so much. I really wish I could have been one of those fans from 10 years ago when the show first started. I've been watching it week by week ever since. Every time a new episode comes out, I'll just watch it. But, in 2013, I was like 6 years old, and yeah, my 6 year old self would not have been too into this show. And even myself, a couple of years ago, even if I did start watching the show when I was like 14, 13, I probably wouldn't have understood what's going on because, this show does get rather dialogue heavy with expositions about things, and there's a lot of twists and turns. The story unfolds in some crazy ways, and it can be very complex at times, especially towards the later seasons. But luckily, I'm a very clever boy now, and I understood the majority of what was going on without having to look for an explanation from someone else who likes a show or online. I understood the majority of what was going on. There was only really one occasion where I was really confused and needed someone to explain it to me. But, that was sort of at the point where things were really, really starting to get crazy. So I'll let myself off on that one. But yeah, this video is going to be a sort of review on Attack on Titan as a whole. I won't go too in depth because then the video would be like hours long. But I will be talking spoilers, so if you have not seen the show and you have an interest in seeing the show, then maybe don't watch this video. But if you have seen the show or you just don't care to watch it but fancy watching a video from me, then hello, how are you? Enjoy the video. So the characters in Attack on Titan are incredibly well written. I love all of the main cast of characters. Eren Yeager as the protagonist is really great. One of the best protagonists I've seen in recent times. And he's also one of the best antagonists I've seen in recent times because he does kind of become the main villain of the show in a way. And I think it was extremely well executed. It is a fantastic, downfall story. It doesn't feel jarring or unearned or forced. The character development is there, and it feels right that they went down that path because that's what they've been foreshadowing. They've set that up. The show is praised for its very clever foreshadowing. They have extreme attention to detail, which really does help with the character category. Another character that sticks out to me is Reiner. In the earlier seasons, I did not like Reiner. I could not wait for Reiner to die, and I believe that's how they wanted you to feel. But by the time the show ended, Reiner actually did become one of my favorite characters, and that's impressive. Writers are talented when they can make you go from wanting someone to die to absolutely adoring them. If the Attack on Titan writers want you to feel a certain way about a character, they will make sure you feel that way. Except for Gabi. By the end of the show, you're supposed to like Gabi, but a lot of people still hate her, which is understandable. She did kill Sasha Browse, who was one of the most likable characters in the show. But I actually do believe Gabi is the best character that was introduced in Season 4. I think she perfectly represents how military propaganda can affect children and take away childhood innocence. Her actions and behaviour also heavily mirror Eren's actions and behaviour in the earlier seasons. So it also shows that the Marlians also endure hardship the same way the Eldians did by giving those two characters a lot of similarities. And I think that really helped with the show's message about how both sides of war endure a lot of hard times, and it's not as simple as good and evil. I mean, we spend the entire show rooting for the characters on Paradis Island, but at the end of the day, both sides are fighting out of fear. They both fear each other to a very high degree, so they both believe they're in the right and are protecting themselves and their people. If I had to complain about something with the characters in Attack on Titan, I guess it would be the relationship between Ymir and Historia. It takes up a lot of time in season 2, it's focused on a lot. There are some romantic sparks between the two characters, which is, it's cute and all, but it doesn't really go anywhere. As soon as Historia becomes queen, she just kind of fades away from the story. She still shows up every now and then and is mentioned quite a bit, but her presence is not as large. She's not really a part of the main cast anymore like she used to be. And Ymir died off screen, and we don't really get to see Historia's reaction to finding out that information. We don't get to see her grieve or anything, which just feels kind of weird considering a lot of season 2 was focused on that relationship. I get that the outcome is supposed to be unfair, and I'm fine with that, but just some scene or bit of dialogue to really conclude that storyline would have been nice. If I had to pick a favourite character from the show on the spot, I would probably have to go with Hanji Zoe. She stands out from the rest of the cast from the very beginning because she's the only character that appreciates the beauty of the world despite all the conflict and suffering. She's the only character who views the Titans as living things and is very enthusiastic about learning more about them. Her positive mindset throughout a lot of the show enables her to be a bit of a goofball at times, but she can also be very serious when the situation calls for it, which I really appreciate. It's more realistic for a character to have goofy and serious moments throughout their life, as opposed to just exclusively being a serious character or a silly, funny character. I've already mentioned that Attack on Titan utilizes its characters to critique the harshness of war and overall cruelty of the world, but for this section of the video I wanted to discuss how the concept of this fantasy world is able to mirror our unpleasant reality, despite it being quite unreal. Obviously, we all know Titans aren't real and are in no way involved with real life wars, however they can be viewed as symbols of weapons of mass destruction, as we have seen that it's possible for a Titan to wipe out all life. Like weapons of mass destruction, the Titans are tools used by a group to make sure that an opposing side does not attack. For example, the Pure Titans surround the walls of Paradis to prevent a rebellion from the supposed Eldian devils who live on that island. Also, Eren Yeager, using the Founding Titan to wipe out 80% of the population, ended that specific conflict between Marley and Paradis. There could be similarities drawn here to the dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, causing the end of World War II. Something else I appreciate about the show's critique of war is that the credit scenes show future wars taking place. I've seen some people complain about this and say that it undermines the journey of ending the conflict in Attack on Titan, but I believe it's a great way of reinforcing the unfairness of the realities of war, because it shows that war will always happen as long as humans still exist, and history will always repeat itself. Yeah, I know I didn't really talk too much about the story itself, even though this section is about the story. It was more focused on the themes, but it's interesting to think about. Maybe the weapons of mass destruction symbolism was a reach. I haven't personally heard anyone bring up that idea, but I think it's a possibility that Titans do represent weapons of mass destruction. So those are just some of my thoughts on Attack on Titan. I was originally planning on talking about the final episode in depth because I know it's a divisive topic among fans, but I wasn't planning on making this a big video. I just wanted to talk about my great experience with the show since it's still pretty fresh in my mind. I might make a video about the finale once I rewatch it because I do think it will be pretty interesting to talk about. So that's all I have to say. Have you watched Attack on Titan? If so, feel free to comment your thoughts on the show as a whole. and maybe even suggest some video ideas for more Attack on Titan content if that's something you'd be interested in seeing. But anyway, I'm going to leave it here for now. Bye bye.